Okay, and setting it up for the YouTube Live. Webinar is now streaming live on YouTube. Maybe that's a notification you also got on your platform or on your Zoom app. So on YouTube, everyone, we're just doing this live session. And if you want to learn blockchain, you can enjoy the session. Otherwise, you can just close this live session. Okay, that's only for YouTube, not for us. Okay, great. So once again, welcome back everyone to another live session. Now this time we are doing it on blockchain. Now for our blockchain course, this is our first day when we are starting with blockchain, and we have done most of it, most of the JavaScript part before. And okay, that's awesome. So let me set the agenda for today, and then we'll discuss the actual part. In fact, I have my book ready with me. I'll be sharing this screen share soon. Okay, and I'm sharing my screen, and here we go. Okay, where is the quick time? It's here. So let's talk about the agenda for today, what we're going to discuss. I also want to make sure that my chat window for Zoom is also open so that I can see what you people are talking about. Okay, so what is the agenda? The first agenda is to understand a technology called blockchain. Now, see, as a person who is working on blockchain from the last 4 years, as a trainer who is working in the tech domain from the last 12 years, I understood one thing. If you don't understand something in a basic term, it is difficult to go forward. Okay, so that's why in today's session we'll stick to basics. We'll talk about the basics of blockchain, why it is into existence, and the way we are going to learn this is, when you peel the onion, we have multiple layers in it. So basically, we'll understand the layer 0. Not the blockchain layer 0. I'm talking about the concepts. So whenever you learn something, you always try to expand your knowledge step by step, right? So we'll be starting with the layer 0, and then we'll be looking at layer 1. We'll be looking at layer 2. So maybe the same concept, what we are discussing now, will be here, the layer 1. And as the day progresses and the further session, we'll talk about the same topic. So what if after 5 days or 10 sessions, I will say, okay, now let's talk about blockchain. Now at that point also, I'm talking about the basics of blockchain, but not this one. I'll be talking about the upper layer, right? So that's how you expand your knowledge. Okay. Cool. So basically, we have onion where we are peeling. So we are understanding each concept in a ring way. Cool. Okay. So we'll talk about the basics of blockchain, and then we'll move towards why blockchain. First of all, why we have to even learn the concept like blockchain at the first place. So we'll talk about why blockchain. Then we'll try to understand what is blockchain, maybe using some definitions, or if you want to explain something. So if you want to explain something, we'll try to understand that in a blockchain way. And maybe if we get enough time, we'll talk about how blockchain works. So we'll talk about the why of blockchain, what is blockchain in terms of definition, and how it works behind the scene. There are certain things which we have to understand in blockchain. And what if I say blockchain, when you heard this term blockchain, and then people who are new to the world of blockchain, they're like, oh, now we have a new technology to learn. First of all, it's not new technology. Blockchain is there from the last, I can say 10 to 13 years, 2009, when the actual paper got published, right? So it's been 13 years now. And whenever someone hears about blockchain and they are a bit confused, to have to learn a very new technology, because it is, the word does not match with any of the existing technology. If we talk about technology like IoT, the hardware was already there, networking was already there. If we talk about AI, we are at least hearing about AI from a long time in movies and from some people. Maybe even if you're not done anything on AI, at least you know what AI means. You see the application in the movies, right? The robot is moving. In fact, we are using applications where AI is very powerful. Example, this is suggestions which you get on Google. When you open Netflix, the movie it will suggest you it is generated by AI. But coming back to blockchain, you don't see the actual implementation anywhere. So how do you understand what blockchain is? So it's very simple. Blockchain is a new term, that's right, but the technology is very old. It's a mixture of multiple technologies. So if we talk about blockchain, it's a mixture of cryptography. It's a mixture of distributed systems and networking concepts, and I can say database. So basically, blockchain is the combination of this four. I mean, if you know this four, and if you understand what is cryptography means, if you understand what is distributed systems, if you understand networking, if you understand what is database, you can just combine all this together and you learn a technology called blockchain. Okay. Now, for some people, blockchain will look very easy because they know all these things. They know what is cryptography is. They know cryptography. They know distributed computing. They know networking. They know database. Okay, it's that simple. But people who are new to the world of the technology, who are not sure what programming is, who are not sure what is cryptography is, for them, it might take some time. Okay. So in this particular course of blockchain, I'm just assuming that you don't know anything. We'll be talking about the cryptography part. Okay, not everything. In fact, if I talk about cryptography, we have to launch a separate course, okay, which is full stack cryptography. I know that's way behind. Maybe you can say a master class in cryptography, which will take around 6-7 months. Okay, so we'll focus only on those things which are required for blockchain. Then we'll understand what is distributed means. Again, related to blockchain, we talk about networking concepts. And I guess I have also given you some assignments on networking, right? So we'll talk about those things as well, and database. Now, it's not like we are going to do a full course on database. Of course, it will take another batch, right? So we'll be talking about those concepts which are there in the world and which is required for blockchain. Okay, so we are going to start in a bit. I just want to make sure that my panelists are there in the panelist section. Hitanshu is still waiting in the attendee section. Yeah, Hitanshu, I promoted you. Yeah. Okay, now before we start, we got one chat here, which is from, okay, so I've stopped sharing my screen. So I got one comment here from Yogesh. Yogesh says, whenever I say blockchain, people only think, oh, it's crypto. Let me share you my experience. I've done that multiple times in different places, but I'm not sure if I've done that here. Let me share one of the experience. I was a few months back, I was talking to one of my friend who is a very senior person in the industry, senior in age, senior in post, senior in the experience as well. And while talking, he basically works in networking concepts, and he's into operations and deployment. So I was talking to him, and he was asking, hey, what is your focus nowadays? And I mentioned about blockchain. I am working on blockchain. And he was like, hey, it's illegal, right? I was like, oh, blockchain illegal. I wanted to explain everything, the process and stuff, but then I was not having enough time at that occasion. It was basically an event where we went, and then I was not having enough time to explain the concepts. So I just mentioned blockchain, and what you're thinking in your mind is different. Because everyone thinks blockchain is crypto. That's not the case. We understand that today as well. So that's a scenario. So this is the agenda which we have talked about. And now let me talk about some important concepts. Okay, just a second, everyone. Because everyone thinks, okay, awesome. So let's start with the session. Again, I'm sharing my screen. Cool. Now, to understand blockchain, we have to first understand why in this world we need something called blockchain. I know in the first session of this course, which happened 2 months back, we have talked about it. But after this, things have changed, right? In fact, we started with JavaScript, and then maybe we lost a track in between. So let me just go through again, so that for everyone else, this will look like a first day of blockchain. Now, first of all, let's understand why we need to work on why we need blockchain in the first place. Now, there are multiple use cases which I can use here. Maybe I can talk about hospitals, I can talk about money, I can talk about a supply chain. And one of my favorite example to explain this is supply chain. So let's talk about it. Now, when I talk about supply chain, think about Amazon. Okay, change my pen. Think about Amazon. No, I'm not talking about the Amazon deliver and place. I'm talking about the Amazon e-commerce website. Now, whenever you buy something on Amazon, first of all, how many of you trust online shopping? Do you enjoy online shopping? Yes, we do. Do we trust online shopping? Okay, I can see most of you are saying yes and some no. Now, maybe you are saying yes because it's Amazon. What if I say there's a website called Buy Your Fi? Let's say there's a website called Buy Your Fi. And in Buy Your Fi as well, you can buy everything the way you buy on Amazon. Now, will you trust Buy Your Fi? Just by going to the website and say, hey, I want to buy this stuff. And that website says, okay, we'll give you everything in discount. Maybe they will charge you 10% less than Amazon. And of course, we love we basically, okay, I'm not sure this website exists, okay, so don't just go there and search. I'm just randomly created this name. So let's say if you go there and if they say we will give you 10% off, and we all love discounts, right? I mean, who hates discount? If someone is giving you a discount, so basically the thing is, if you go to this website and if you get discount, will you trust, will you buy? If they are giving you iPhone with a 10% discount compared to any other shopping websites, you will trust only when if there's a COD option, cash on delivery, right? So you can just place the order, and when you place the order, it will say, okay, you will get your product in next 2 to 3 days. I mean, you're quite okay at that point because you have not paid for it. So once you received the product, then only you will pay for it, right? That's one scenario. The second scenario is, even in COD, can you trust? Because see, when they give you the courier, in fact, it happened with most of the things, if they give you the box, the moment you receive the box in your hand, you will pay for it, right? You will just take out your cash and you will give it, or maybe you will do the online transfer on the spot. But how do you know that what's inside the box? What if the delivery person just left and then you opened the box, which you thought, hey, it will be an iPhone, and you got a stone? Is it really possible? It happened. I mean, I'm not talking about BioFi, I'm talking about the famous website like Flipkart. I don't know if you have seen the news a few years back, someone bought an iPhone and they received a rinse soap, a washing soap. Can you imagine? Yeah. So you are basically paying 1 lakh rupees, which is approximately $1,500 to buy a soap. Yeah. So basically, what is the issue here? First, your money might, I mean, if you paid online and if you don't even have the product in your hand, that's one scenario. Second, maybe you have done COD and you got the product, but of course, even this is, that won't be an issue. But what if you actually received an iPhone? What if you received an iPhone? Now, can you trust? What if that iPhone is fake? What if the iPhone is stolen? Yeah. So there might be multiple issues with the brand like this. Now, the problem with this is, of course, we all trust Amazon, but we don't trust a new website. But what if this is actually a good website? The moment you see a new place, it's very difficult for people to trust online shopping. So what the first issue is the trust issue. We don't trust anyone online. Anyone can anyone can have a Facebook account and they can have the name as Angel Priya. Yeah. So basically on the internet, having trust is difficult. Let me talk about the second problem. Let's not even talk about the website now. Think about Amazon. What if Amazon is selling something and you are buying an iPhone on Amazon? Now, will you trust Amazon? Yes, no, maybe. Of course, right? We do it. In fact, most of my products are coming from Amazon, right? Laptop, monitor, pen, Even my clothes are coming on Amazon from Amazon. So basically, I trust Amazon a lot because Amazon was able to build that trust, right? So for any new company, it's very difficult to build trust, and I feel it's not good. I feel it's not good that a company need to prove that they're trustable. But yes, if the same company is launching a physical shop, then we trust them, right? What if there's a new shop near to your house, and the shop name itself is BioFi, right? Now, will you trust that website or that shop? The shop is selling the same thing. The shop is selling the iPhone itself, but now will you trust? Of course, we do, right? You have so many local shops near you, and sometimes you buy from them. You don't even think about, hey, they can sell a fake product. So maybe we do trust people in the real world, and we don't trust them in the virtual world. And that's what we want to build, because the future is virtual. So when you say the future is virtual, then why not build trust in the virtual world? Okay, that's the first thing. That's what we want to build trust. Now, is it blockchain going to solve that issue? We don't know yet, right? I'm just talking about the problems which we are facing. Okay. Now, let's say, even if you buy iPhone on Amazon, 99.9% we can say you will receive the original one. There is a slight chance that you might receive a fake product. Now, question arises, if you receive a fake product from Amazon, whose mistakes it is? What do you think? Who has done this swapping in between? What if you receive a rinse soap? Come on, think about this. Who is the culprit here? The seller, the mediators, delivery person. Okay, I can see a lot of answers here. Seller, delivery person. No one knows. Yeah, that's right. No one knows. Because see, whenever you get a product, it's basically a problem of logistics and supply chain. There is a company like Apple who is creating a design, right? See, Apple don't manufacture their own product. What Apple do is they design the product. This product is actually made in a factory. So there is a factory here. Then from this factory, it goes to some mediators. Maybe I can say this is okay. I don't know the exact supply chain, but can we say these are distributors of that product? And then from distributor, the same thing goes to the warehouse. You know, when you buy something on Amazon, Amazon in India has their own seller, which is Cloudtail. So maybe from distributor, it reaches to the warehouse, and from the warehouse, it goes to your local warehouse. And the fun part is, the actual warehouse of Amazon is just 2 or 3 kilometers away from my place. Okay, and that's why whenever I buy something, I get that next day morning itself. Okay, but in most of the places we don't have the city-wide warehouse near to your house. So you have a local warehouse near to your house, and then from that house you receive the product. So this is you, and you got your product. Okay, Aditya Joshi is guessing, is it Bhiwandi? That's right. So I stay in Kalyan near Mumbai, and Bhiwandi is very near to me from my place. And Bhiwandi has a lot of warehouses of different companies, Amazon, Flipkart, and stuff. Okay, awesome. So basically, you can see we have a lot of people in between. So now tell me, if you receive a fake product, from where the issue starts. Is it Apple is doing it? Maybe, no one knows. Maybe distributor is doing it. No one knows. Warehouse, local warehouse, and you. I mean, maybe you have done it. After receiving the product, you have opened the box and then replacing that with the iPhone with a soap. Quite possible, right? No one knows the story exactly. Everyone have their own story. Yeah. Now, what's the issue? Why? Someone has also mentioned, Vikas says it's not traceable. Why it is not traceable? Okay. Now, first of all, it's not traceable from the user side because on the user side, we don't have a system, right? Now, this company do trust the users, but can we just control the above part? Now, what happens, all these companies, not companies, but all these mediators in between, they have their own databases. Of course, they also use database, right? Okay, Mohit says we need CBI. Okay, not for this case. CBI will not be involved for an iPhone. Okay, but let's say everything in between is they have their own database. So they have their own database. In fact, distributor will have their own database. Okay. And warehouse will have its own database, and the local store will be having their own database, or local warehouse will also have their own database. Now, at this point, when I say they have their own database, what they are tracking in the database. See, every box, if you talk about an iPhone box, it will have a serial number, right? They scan the serial number and then it goes to the next place. So once the factory has manufactured everything, the box is ready. Now that box will be scanned and data will be maintained here. So they will have their own data here, right? Which mentions the serial number. Then the same box will move to the other part, to the distributor, and they will have their own database with this serial number. They will have their own database, they will have their own database. Now let's say, I'm just guessing, what if the warehouse in between is the culprit? And warehouse says, the product which I have received from the distributor itself was fake. And they have updated their column with the new serial number. Maybe they just have swapped the box. The actual box is somewhere else. They have added a fake box, and the fake box also has a serial number, and they have entered that serial number in the database. That's where the problem starts, because everyone in between, they have a separate database. Basically, they are trying to achieve what do you call as distributed database. So is it making sense? Everyone here want to have their own database. Okay, so what's the solution? Okay, we have talked about a problem for a long time. What is the solution here? Come on, waiting in the chat. Okay, we got one solution from Devendra, and which actually looks cool. What Devendra is suggesting is, instead of having a separate database for everyone here, can we just go for a same database? Create a single database, and where they all, okay, what's wrong with my diagram today? So Devendra says, use a single database, and they all will be sharing the same database. That actually sounds good, right? Because if someone is changing something, everyone is doing the same database, and if someone is doing any manipulation or changes, they have a log file which they can verify. Do you think any problem with this? That's right. Vikas says this will lead to single point of failure. Now, what this means? What do you mean by single point of failure? If this database goes down, everything goes down. That's one issue. Okay, that makes sense. What could be the other issue? Akash is saying Jeff Bezos can deliver by himself. That's a good solution. Oh. Okay, so the issue can be, low performance. Okay, now one of the issue is who will be owning this database? I mean, we mentioned that we can use a single database, but who owns it? Because see, when in the above example, when we say distributed, oh, my voice is breaking. Is it for everyone? Okay, it's only for you, Vasant. Please verify. Harsh, can you please put the LAN cable? It's already there, right? LAN cable. The light is blinking. Okay, just a second, everyone.
In between, for a bit, it is little bit lagging in voice, slightly, I can say. No, sir will join back, guys. He's just connecting back.
Okay, how about now? Is it good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Heather, you also faced issue before this, or?
Slightly, sir, here and there.
Okay, now it's good, right?
Issue was there, but not fully. But now everything is fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Perfect. So, so in the single database, what are the issues? The first issue is the single point of failure. The second issue is regarding the ownership. Who do you think should own this database? Okay, some people are saying Apple, some people say Amazon. Okay, hard to decide. That's right. This is very hard to decide who should own it. It's not just about deciding, it's also about if some of them say, I will take care of it, what if they are the real malicious people here? What if the warehouse person says, who is a malicious entity in between, who says, hey, let me manage the database? Okay, Ratna is saying everyone who are involved. How can everyone create a single database? How can everyone manage a single database? Someone has to take the ownership. Even when you create a cloud account, let's say Amazon account, someone has to own it. Yes, others can be admin, but someone has to own it. And that's where the problem starts. The owner always has the higher control. Okay. And whenever you get a higher control, the things gets weird. Okay. Now let me give an example why the single control is not good. Okay. Now think about, yeah, we'll talk about that in some time. I just want to finish this. So single database is not good. So if you go for a central database, what you suggested, again, not a big fan. So central database is no. Distributed database, yes, in sometimes. Maybe you can say we can sync it, right? We can sync the database. But again, that's a headache. If you have a distributed database like this, everything has to be in sync. Maybe let's not have a separate column for separate everyone here. Maybe we can have a common type of schema for every database here. So when you say schema for everyone else who is not from non-tech, schema means the design of database. Okay, the database looks like this. We have a database here which will have multiple columns, and every column will have a name. Let's say this is ID, this is name, this is okay, it's gone. Schema, let me just write it here. So when you say schema of a database, it will have the box like this. It will have multiple columns and multiple rows. Yeah. So we have multiple rows, multiple columns, and then you have a column name like ID, name, and those stuff here. And then you will be having your data in this. Making sense? So this is your schema. So maybe we can have a common schema for all the database here, and then we can sync it. Now, syncing is another issue. Okay, so syncing issue is there for distributed systems. Central database, we don't want to have a single ownership, which is not a good way, having a single ownership. So we have to find a new way. And that new way, any guess? Of course, we have to come to the part which the topic is. The new way is something called a decentralized database. Okay, so instead of using centralized or instead of saying distributed, we are going for a decentralized database where no one should be the owner of the database. Now question arises, how that is possible. Okay, so we'll talk about that. How do we achieve that? And it's not like decentralized database is something which came now. Engineers, scientists are working very hard from a long time to get a decentralized database. But every given point, there were some issues. Someone also mentioned in the chat, if decentralized database is there and no one is owning it, how government is going to support this? And of course, government will ban all this application, right? So, they work on this concept of decentralized database is there from a long time. I can say from the 1990s. And a lot of people tried to create something decentralized, but there was issues from the government, from the technology itself, and they were able to do this. So decentralized database came into existence in 2009. Yeah, I'm not sharing screen at this point. So decentralized database came in existing in 2009 and with an application. In fact, I was live on Sunday as well. Not Sunday, I was live 2 days back because we got a new merge. Everyone in the chat on Zoom and on YouTube, you can mention what happened with Ethereum soon. I mean, from last few days. The merge happened, right? The merge, Ethereum merge happened. it moved from POW to POS. But again, we don't know what POW POS is, right? So let's keep that on hold. Now, everyone else who is there in the session on Zoom, and if you think you know basics of blockchain and then you just want to, you're waiting for the programming, maybe you don't know everything, maybe I will talk about something new. So just go with this. Okay. Yeah, what does Ethereum merge means? We'll talk about that once we talk about Ethereum, once we talk about the consensus algorithm and all those stuff. Okay, so let's talk about what happened in 2009. So basically, one of the issue, which is a very major issue is it's the issue about money. It's the issue about transaction. It's the issue about who is controlling the economy. The world is getting richer, is it? Only rich people are getting richer and poor are still poor. What do you think? What could be an issue? What is an issue? Okay, I don't want to do any conspiracy theory here, and there are a lot of conspiracy theory that rich people are controlling everything and stuff. But in general, I want everyone to have a power. Sometimes we feel we are privileged, and we are, right? Especially the place where I stay, I don't find people, I mean, of course, there are people, but then the majority of us has a banking service. Do we? Yes, we have. Especially in India, I'm not sure about the other countries, we have this awesome way of transacting money. You can use something called UPI. And if you want to pay for something at any places, you can just scan the QR code and you're done, right? So the banking which you get, we take it for granted, especially the places where the banking service is available. So whenever you have a banking service available, it's very easy to get the services and we take it for granted. But what about the countries where we don't have banking services? Even if those people try to earn money, even if they work hard, they don't have a banking service. Okay, I just want to give you a very personal example, which I have not talked about. Maybe I've talked about some places, I'm not sure, on YouTube. So I will not mention exactly who, but then one of my relative, they went to Saudi. So basically in the older generation, okay, so my parents' generation, at that point, now everyone in South India, everyone wants to move abroad. Okay, they have to study here, and then they want to do MS in abroad, and they want to work in foreign countries, maybe US, UK, and of course for several reasons. So, but our parents' generation, they have a different idea because they were not educated. So instead of going to US, UK, they went to the Gulf countries, UAE. So they used to go there to work as a labor, okay? So building, construction, driver, and all the labor jobs. And they used to earn very less. Of course, it sounds good. They went to different countries, but then they used to earn very less. So let's say they earn around 1,000 rupees. Just an example. Let's say maybe 10,000 rupees a month. Now, at this point, I'm just taking an example. I'm not sure how much they earn that, but let's say 10,000 rupees per month. And they used to get in cash, okay? Hard cash. Now, when they get this in hard cash, how will they send this money to their family who is staying in different country? Normally, we call them as remittance. How will they send this remittance from the country to the other country? Okay, Nagesh is saying exchange. That's right. But we have a good type of exchange nowadays, right? At that point, there were limited options. When you go there to give the money, they will charge you hefty transaction cost, the exchange cost. And yeah, there was also an option of Hawala and all the stuff. I'm not sure how that works, but then they used to charge hefty amount. Out of 10,000 rupees, they used to charge 4,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees only for the exchange. And what the family receive here in India is only half, or maybe less than that. If the person is very uneducated, the person don't even know how the system works. So what the family receives is something very less. Nowadays, we have this advantage of internet. We can transfer money. But at that point, it was very difficult. And a lot of people, they just earned a lot in between to do the transactions. Yeah. Okay, I'm talking about that time. What if I say it still happens now? And that sounds weird because we are living in a world where internet is so famous, but it's still happening. This middlemen, they use internet, but then they charge a lot with other people who are not that educated and who are into areas where we don't have good banks and systems. So there are some countries in the world that don't have a banking service. That's one. The second one is inflation. There are some countries in the world, they have high inflation. The money, maybe you've heard about several countries, I don't remember the names as of now, but their currency is not stable. The price of something goes up and down a lot. Maybe you are earning a lot to earn to buy something. Maybe you just want to buy a pen. So let's say this pen costs 10 rupees now. In those countries, the price just fluctuates like anything. So today evening it costs to 10 rupees. Tomorrow it might cost 200 rupees. It's that problematic at those places. And then we blame Bitcoin to be that to have high. What do you say? What the word we use there? I forgot the word. That's weird. Yeah, volatile. Yeah. So there was an idea. Can we just use a single currency instead of using dollars and something? Can we use a single currency for the entire world? And that's where a few companies, I'm not sure, someone came up with this idea. And again, I don't want to take away credit from the person or group of people, but the idea was not new. From a long time, a lot of people wanted that idea. Can we use a single currency for the entire world? That's first. So let me share my screen and talk about those stuff. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so basically what we want is a single currency for the entire world. Single currency. The second thing is we don't want this middleman in between. Now, what's wrong with this middleman? Even if I say banks, they are the entities who is working in this between. Example, let's say if you want to transfer money, let's talk about the inter countries or maybe foreign exchange. Banks in between charge you huge amount of money. Okay, not a small amount, huge amount. Of course, if we do transaction in India, it makes sense, right? But if you do a transaction, international transaction, they will charge you around 4 to 5% as a transaction cost. Why? Why 3 to 4% transaction cost when you transfer money? I mean, you are working very hard, to earn 100 rupees, and PayPal says, "Hey, we'll take away 4 to 5 rupees." Why? You're just transferring the same money from one person to another person. Why you have to charge so much in between? I mean, I'm not saying they are doing it on purpose. Maybe they have to work with a bank and bank will take a cut. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying why the system is still there the way it was there from a long time. So the middlemen made sense way back, but now it doesn't make sense, right? Example, in India, we have UPI. So you just scan the QR code, you do a transfer, and you don't pay any transaction fee. If they can do it, why not Forex? Maybe I'm not good with economics, and that's why I'm blaming it. But after researching a lot, I realize we can still do it. Yeah. Yeah, Naman says they are working very hard to maintain the transfer system. But I mean, yes, they are working hard. But let's say if I'm transferring 100 rupees and they're charging 4 rupees, makes sense. But if I transfer 1 lakh rupees, they're still charging 4,000 rupees. Why? If they're happy with 4 rupees for 100 rupees transaction, why 4,000 for 1,000 rupees, for 1 lakh rupees? So if you can see the amount of transaction fee goes up as a foreign exchange transaction cost. Okay, I still think countries can manage this, but they're not doing it, maybe to earn money from the transactions. So we can remove this middleman from between. And what else we can do here? Can we have a system which is transparent? If they are charging so much, why not maintain transparency? Yeah. So to solve this problem, lot of people tried. Okay, a lot of people tried, but someone, no one knows, maybe a pseudonym or something, they came up with something called a technology called Bitcoin. Maybe we can call this as a single currency. So the person name or the pseudonym or someone names, I'm not sure. So the name is Satoshi Nakamoto. Okay, now first of all, no one knows who the person is. Okay. Is it Nakamoto? M-U? Or Moto? M-O, right? Okay. So yeah, Satoshi Nakamoto. Now there are a lot of conspiracies behind this. It can be one person who has a lot of Bitcoins with him and he just ran away. The moment Bitcoin price goes up, he just uses those Bitcoins. Possible. The next conspiracy is it's not just one company, it is multiple companies. Samsung, Toshiba, some name with NA, maybe Motorola. So again, there is a lot of conspiracies behind this, and no one knows the reason why the name is Satoshi Nakamoto. Or maybe it's a group of people who wanted to change the world and they want to reveal, but then if they reveal their name, maybe they will get arrested by the government. Maybe that's why they're hiding. So this group of people came together, maybe companies or group of people or one person came together to form something called a Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is revolutionary for multiple things, and we'll talk about those things later. Okay, Hitanshu has shared one thing. Let me share that in a chat as well for everyone. Oh, Hitanshu has, okay, you have shared with everyone, right? That's awesome. Thank you, Hitanshu. Hitanshu says Samsung, Toshiba, Nakamoto, Motorola, and group of Japanese company. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Okay, Samsung is Korean. No, let's not debate on the companies, but as I mentioned, there's a conspiracy and no one knows the truth. No one knows the truth. Okay, we are just trying to guess. Whenever if you watch a movie and if the ending is not the climax is open climax, then we try to guess, right, what might have happened in the same way. Okay, so he created Bitcoin. Again, how Bitcoin works, we'll talk about that later. As of now, imagine there's a concept of Bitcoin. It's a currency basically, and it's not dependent on any fiat currency. So it's not dependent on any fiat currencies like rupees or dollars. Bitcoin has its own currency. Now, how do we generate a value for it? I mean, it's not like you are carrying a coin. Example, let's say if I have a coin in my pocket, okay, I own that coin. As of now, I don't have a coin. That's weird. Normally, I always have some coins in my pocket every time to show off how much money I have, but I don't have a coin as of now. So let's say if I have 1 rupee coin, and basically I own that coin now because it's there with me. The moment I give that coin to someone else, now that particular person owns the coin. Making sense, right? Now, can we create a copy of it? Of course not. That one coin has its own identity. Whoever holds the coin owns the coin, right? So if you hold a coin, you own the coin. That's very simple. But if we talk about Bitcoin, Bitcoin is virtual. It's digital. How do we hold it? Maybe it's like an image, right? If you have an image in your hand, and if that image you send it on WhatsApp, everyone else has the same copy. Oh, that's the issue, right? It's like using one coin to spend in multiple places. So basically, we have a problem which is double spend problem here. Double spend problem. Now, this problem is there for a long time. So double spend problem is so do you think no one had thought about creating a digital coins even before Bitcoin got famous? Of course, there were a lot of scientists. In fact, Bitcoin came in 2009, right? Before that, also, we were using internet. Someone might have thought, right, can you have digital coins? The issue was they were not able to resolve the double spend problem. How can you save, how can you have a virtual coin which you cannot double spend, right? That's the issue. Now, Bitcoin was able to do that, and the technology behind it. So Bitcoin is an application which works on a technology, and the technology name is blockchain. So like we can say Bitcoin powered by blockchain. Yeah, we can say that. Okay, double spend. What is double spend? If you have money, let's say 10 rupees, and if you can spend the same money at two places, that is double spend, which we can't do in the real world, right? Because you have a physical rupee, and if you send it to, if you give it to someone else, you don't have it. Yeah. But if you have a virtual copy, you can sell the virtual copy to the multiple people. That is double spend. Is it making sense? Okay. So with this, we'll talk about blockchain now more. We'll talk about Bitcoin later in detail, how the transaction works and all those stuff. But we'll talk more about blockchain in some time. Let's take a small break, 5 minutes, and then we'll continue. So this is 3:51, exactly 5 minutes, and we'll continue. Don't worry, we'll have a bigger break after the blockchain session before we start with JavaScript. Okay, I'm back. I hope you can see me now. Oh, okay, I'm back. That was weird. Okay, I hope everyone is back as well. Let me know in the chat. Where did I keep my pen? Okay, awesome. So here we go. Let's start with the concept once again. So till this point, we have talked about the blockchain and stuff. And okay, so now we know that the underlying technology of Bitcoin is blockchain. So let's talk about blockchain and its definition. Now, in short, if we talk about blockchain, let me just write a definition or maybe some key points of it. So if we talk about blockchain, it's a combination of two terms. It's block and chain. In fact, if you have seen, and I would suggest everyone to read the white paper of Bitcoin, and that's very important. And I want you to read it multiple times. First, today itself, and see how much you understand. And watch it after 3 to 4 sessions, or read it after 3 to 4 sessions, and then you will understand a bit more. Okay. And again, as I mentioned, right, can we just have a name for it? The onion peeling learning, where you learn layer by layer. Okay. So when the Bitcoin paper came into existing, it has a different name. It was not blockchain. I mean, no one knew that the term could be blockchain. The term was different. Okay, what we have to read, let me just, Hitanshu, can you just write that in a chat? The Bitcoin white paper. Yeah, that's right. The white paper name is peer-to-peer money transfer, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so basically the term was different. What did I do? Yeah, so term was a bit different. The term was the chain of blocks. So before the term blockchain, the term actually was chain of blocks. It was more about creating a chain of blocks. And later on, they wanted a good name. So when Bitcoin got famous, the technology got famous, and a lot of different technologies started building on the chain of blocks. And they found this word a bit weird. It matches similar to what we have for IoT. You know what IoT stands for, everyone? Come on, IoT. That's right. IoT stands for Internet of Things. In the same way, they wanted it to name as chain of blocks. But then if you can have a short form for it, it would be COB. Instead of, the way we say IoT every time, we say COB instead of saying blockchain. But later on, they wanted a good name, and they moved this to blockchain, and that sounds much better, right? So let's understand what blockchain is. Now, what if I say blockchain is a database? That's it. End of the story. Bye-bye. Yeah, that's right. Blockchain is a database. Or to be very specific, I can say this is a database technology, not just a database. It's a database technology. Okay, let's remove this and say, yeah. So blockchain is a database technology. Okay, can we just enhance it a bit more? If you remember, we talked about this word here on top. Blockchain is the decentralized database, right? So can I say it is a decentralized database technology? We can. Or let's talk about one more word. Blockchain is actually something called DLT. Yeah. Okay, Heath is very happy. Heath says, I'm blockchain developer now onwards. That's right. Because if you know database, you know blockchain. Okay, there's more to it. Okay, that's why I mentioned a word called technology here. Technology is more about the way of doing things, right? With the same thing. You have a database, and in blockchain also we have database. It's just that the way you store data is different. So there's something called DLT, which is, what is DLT? DLT stands for distributed ledger technology. Yeah, so DLT stands for distributed ledger technology. Now what it means? Oh, are we going back to distributed? Yes, we are. Okay, now you might be getting confused why we are saying decentralized and then we are saying distributed. Why different these two words? Why can't we just say one word? Is it distributed or is it decentralized? Okay, so when we talk about ledger, it is decentralized. If we talk about technology, it is so if you talk about ledger, it is distributed. Technology is decentralized. Now what it means? Centralization and decentralization, think about it as the control. When you say central, that means one person has a control on it. Decentralization simply means no one has a control on it. Let me repeat. Centralization means someone has a control or one person has a control. Decentralization means no one has a control. Distributed means having the same data at multiple places. So if we talk about the control, we can say it is decentralized. But when we talk about database, it is distributed. Data is stored in a distributed way. So blockchain is DLT, which is distributed ledger technology. Making sense, everyone? Okay. Now we have one more word here. We have talked about distributed, but what is ledger? Is ledger same as database? We can say that, but there's one difference. The difference is when you talk about database will always have a current value. Example, let's say if you talk about any database, Excel file, right? If I open an Excel file, I don't want to open my personal files here. But let's say if we talk about, imagine Excel file in your mind. Now, what do you have in Excel? You have multiple columns and multiple rows, right? Let's say the scorecard of the cricket match, or maybe the student database, which is very famous. Now, in the table, whatever value you see, it's a current value. Example, say, if I enter my details, then if I enter my name, my phone number, my email ID, and let's say my address. If I have that data there, that is my current value. What if I change my phone number in future? I have to replace the same value. The phone number field will be changed from the last value to new value, right? So that is state. Your database just maintains the state, the current state of the database. But what is ledger? Ledger will have the old transactions as well. Okay. So example, if you talk about your bank statement, whenever you take a bank statement, what you get? Just a second. Yeah, because I was talking about. Yeah, so when you see a bank statement, you see all the transactions, right? How much money you have sent to someone, how much money you have received. And if you can see, when you say you have a balance, let's say in my account, if I have 15,000 rupees, how do I have that 15,000 rupees? It's all because of the transactions, the credit and debit, the money received, the money you spend, right? And everything is mentioned in a line when you take a bank statement. That is what is called as a ledger. Yeah, we can say log as well. We can say log as well. But ledger is more for the credit and debit, right? You see that it's spent, received, spent, received, spent, received. If you look at my bank statement, it says received, spent, received, spent. And I'm sure it is same for everyone. We just wait for the salary, and then the moment you get a salary in first 10 days, your bank statement is like, that's enough, So maybe you will get a call from your bank as well. Control kar, bhai, control kar. So yeah, so basically that's a ledger which we have. Ledger is the transactions which you see, and you have all the records. The final amount which you see in the balance is calculated based on your transactions, how much you have received and how much you have spent. That's right, Aditya. Control, Uday, control. Okay. Now, okay, for everyone else, I'm just using some Bollywood dialogues here. And if you don't watch Bollywood movies, just skip those parts. Just skip that 2 seconds from your mind. Okay, you'll be very happy. My voice is not audible. It could be only for you. Maybe restart your Zoom, that will be better. Okay, Azmi is not happy. So anything wrong, Azmi? Okay. Okay, because in our account, oh, okay. Okay. Okay, Azmi is having some fun. Azmi says, because in our account, not great money, only spend. Oh, okay. Cool. Oh. For a second, I got a mini heart attack, Azmi, when you say you're not happy. I thought you're not happy with the content. Oh. Okay, awesome. So basically, you can think about blockchain as a distributed ledger technology where you maintain the ledger, and this ledger will be stored at multiple places, and that's why it's distributed. Okay. Now, the technology itself is decentralized because no one controls it, but the database is distributed, which is ledger technology. Okay. Now, for this example, we can think about the supply chain as well. So when you have that supply chain, you can create a blockchain. You can use a blockchain. I was talking about this part. So instead of using a database, they could all have this. They could have used blockchain, and they could have maintained the transactions in the blockchain. Now, the best thing is no one has to control it. Making sense? No one is controlling that blockchain. Now, yeah, you'll be thinking, if no one controls it, how it will be controlled and all the stuff. Hold your horses. Okay, we'll talk about those things. How blockchain is, how in blockchain, how you don't have to control anything. And since we have distributed, we don't have a single point of failure. Okay, awesome. Okay, now let's talk about, there's something called a state. Now, since we're talking about state, let's talk about state. So what is a state? Because from a long time, I'm talking about state, right? The state of the current state and stuff. The current state, okay. So the current state simply means the current data. Whatever data you see there, that's your current state. Example, let's say, if in a shipping company, if we talk about the transaction which is happened here, right? So the product, the iPhone moved from different places. iPhone moved from the factory to distributor, from distributor to warehouse to local warehouse to you. Now, whenever you ship that product, who holds? Example, let's say if the product is with the distributor. So what is the state of the product? Who owns it? It's the distributor, right? That is a current situation. That's the current value of it. Making sense? So basically, that's the state. Who owns it? But then with the state, we can also maintain the ledger. Let me give you one more example. The Goa government, if in India, especially, I'm not sure about the other countries that they've implemented or not. In India, let's talk about this use case first. In fact, well, let's talk about use case and understand the state much more better. So let's talk about the use cases of blockchain. Now, one of the use case, apart from cryptocurrency, that's right. I mean, blockchain came with cryptocurrency, but then it's not the end of blockchain. Yeah. If you want to differentiate between Bitcoin and blockchain, you can think about it as blockchain being the internet and Bitcoin being the Gmail service. Let me repeat. Imagine blockchain as the internet and imagine Bitcoin as a Gmail service. So if you have the internet, we have so many applications, right? Gmail is not the only application of internet. If in future government says Gmail is banned, that doesn't make internet is banned. Is it making sense? Okay, so let's talk about some other use cases of it. First is in India government, example, COVID certificates. If you have taken the vaccines, not COVID certificate, vaccine certificate. If you have taken the vaccine using CoWIN app, the certificate which you received, you might have seen it says blockchain.gov.in. So the COVID certificate, so the vaccine certificate which you receive is actually based on blockchain. Next, the Goa government. In India, in most of the places, whenever you buy a new house, or maybe you're buying a house from someone else, the document work goes for around 6 to 7 days. Just document work. Yeah, and of course, they also charge huge amount of money just for the transfer of home to one person or the person. Now, can we just do that on blockchain? That's right. We can also use, so basically the government is using it for certificates. Government is using it for land registrations. The next use case, we can think about it as maybe healthcare. Now, what healthcare? Again, let me share my own story, which I have done multiple times on different places, because I can never remember that day. I can never forget that day. What's wrong with me? I will always remember that day when in 2019, it was a month of November. I was going from my office to my house, and I was on my two-wheeler, and my office is only 2 or 3 kilometers away from my house, and I was going on a scooty. I thought helmet is not necessary. My bad. And I was riding my scooty, and at that point, I don't know, my scooty slipped, and I met with a small accident. Okay, minor fracture here and there. And when people took me to the hospital, I was a bit unconscious, and the doctor was asking me, I was a bit unconscious, and doctor was asking me, do you have any side effects? Or do you have any pre-existing disease like diabetes or BP or something? Yeah, that's right. Aditya says you uploaded that pic on Insta. Yeah, I did that. I uploaded my photo after that, all those bandages on Instagram. So basically, on that day, doctor was asking me if I have any allergies where I was a bit unconscious. Don't you think doctor could have, I could have said, I could have an allergy, and I could have said no because I was a bit unconscious. I was not able to think properly. And anything could have been on that date, right? If doctor has injected some medicines in me and then I got some allergy. So don't you think the doctor should have records for everyone? My local doctor, the family doctor has all my documents. What are the diseases I have, the history, what are the existing diseases I had from my childhood and everything. So don't you think the hospitals where I went to should have the access to my data? Yes or no? And we can do that with blockchain. Yeah. Now you might be thinking, why blockchain? Why can't we just have a central database for the entire world where we can store all the information? First of all, is it flexible? If yes, who will be owning that database? See, single point of failure is a different thing, okay? But who will own the database? If you say government, which government? If I want a single database for the entire world, which government will hold my records? And do you think really government are so friendly with each other to share the information? Yeah. So that's the issue. And that's why it is not there till this point. Okay. Hari is saying Zuckerberg will buy it from any price. That's right. Okay. If someone is owning it, anyone can buy it. That's the issue. So we can do that, whatever I'm talking about, with the help of blockchain in healthcare, which is already happening. So we can use it for money transfer as well. So now let's talk about the house. Now, since we're talking about the house, let's take an example here itself. Now, let's say if one person, let's say Naveen, has a house at one place. Let's say in my Kalyan, I have a place which I want to sell now. I have a house. Now, this house, let's say the cost is 50 lakhs, Indian currency I'm talking about, okay? Now, if this house cost is 50 lakhs and I want to sell this, So I have to go for a government procedure, right? I have to go there, I have to submit documents, the buyer has to submit documentation, all those stuff. So let's say the second buyer here is Hussein. Hussein, now you are buying this house from me, and let's say you bought it for 50 lakh rupees, and you bought this house. And again, you're the first buyer now, or sorry, second buyer. So I was the first buyer from the builder, you are the second buyer, and then you got this house now. And then let's say you are selling this house later to Yogesh, the same house, and you are the third buyer. Now, what happens? The government or the department in government who handles all this real estate, they have a lot of documents. You can track who owns this house first, and then who's the later part, the third part, the third owner, and all those stuff. So if you talk about these transactions, at this point, tell me what is the state of this house? Who is the owner? It is Yogesh. So if you talk about getting the information about the house, if you want to know the current value, that is Yogesh, that can be coming from database. But what about the earlier transaction? We need to store this as well. And this will be stored in ledger. So all this information, in fact, this information will also be stored in ledger, but this is called the state, the current state. Is it making sense, everyone? Okay. Now, whenever you do a transaction, let's say when Naveen is selling the house to Hussein, or Hussein is selling to Yogesh, this thing is actually called a transaction. So this is called a transaction. It's not just about money. Whenever you give a product to someone else, even without money, that's a transaction, because there's a change in state. So every time you do a transaction, the state changes, isn't it? So every time you do a transaction, the state changes. So you have to remember this. When you do a transaction, you are changing the state. And we'll talk about that, why it is so important to track the state. Okay, we'll talk about that in some time. Any questions to this point? Anyone? Okay, questions. Okay, Ashish is saying, can you explain once again, sir? Okay, which one? The state. See, whenever you do a transfer, the house, I was owning the house, and the same house, so let's say, yeah. So I was the owner of the house, and then I sold that house to Hussein now. Now, whenever I sell that, it is one transaction. And what happens in a transaction? You change the state, because at this point, the state was who owns the house? It's Naveen. But after the transaction, who owns the house? It is Hussein. After the transaction, who owns the house? It is Yogesh now. Makes sense? Okay, cool. Okay, Yogesh is saying, why don't we delete earlier obsolete data history and just maintain the state of previous state? Good question, a very good question. Why you have to maintain the old history? Why? Good question. Now, to understand that, we have to talk about something. Good question. Let me just answer that now. So, in fact, in the further explanation that answered, the question will be answered automatically. But still, if you have the same question, Yogesh, after some time, do ask the question once again. But I think it should be covered in the explanation. Okay, and the explanation is this. Now, when we talk about a blockchain, the main one of the question it comes to our mind is how blockchain works. So how it works. Okay, now what is there in the blockchain and what is those stuff? For that, we have to first understand how do we build a network. See, one thing I have mentioned, right? When you have a blockchain, you don't need a central authority in between, right? Okay, whatever the spelling of authority is, you can complete that. I'm so into blockchain, I don't remember the English anymore. Anyway, so yeah, let's say we have a central authority. So we don't want a central authority. This is what we don't want. We don't want central authority. So what we are saying is, whatever transaction we are going to do, we will do that without central authority. Is it really possible? Is it really possible? Think about this. So let's say I want some volunteers here, and maybe I can just use. So raise your hand if you want to be a volunteer. Okay, we got Nehal here. Nehal, you are one of the volunteer. Okay, Nehal is there. Is it Nehal or Nehal? Nehal. Okay. Then we got Venki. Kahan gaya Venki? Yeah, Venki.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi. And we got, let's say, okay, anyway, we already have 4 panelists. We got Amandeep, Hitanshu, and Sanjeevan. And apart from this 3, we have Venki and Nehal. Nehal, if you can say hi, I just want to test your mic. Okay, Nehal not replying. What's wrong with my Zoom here? So let me give access to Souvik. Hey, hi, Souvik, can you hear me?
Hi,
Okay,
sir.
say hi.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So let's play a small game, not exactly game, but let's understand a scenario. Now we are saying we don't need a bank in between, right? So we got Amandeep, Hitanshu. Oh, there's a noise from my side. That's weird. Okay, how about now? Is it good? Sanjeev and Amandeep, Hitanshu, is it any noise from my side?
No, sir, everything is fine.
Okay, cool. So Sanjeevan, Amandeep, and Hitanshu, I want you to unmute yourself because you will also be a part of this game. Not a game, but explanation. So
Okay, that's fine.
okay, cool. So let's say we got Venki and Souvik here, and I'm also there. So let's say we have Naveen here, and Naveen and Venki, they are doing a deal. The deal is very simple. Naveen will give, okay, why I always give 100 rupees, I'm not sure. But let's say Naveen is giving 100 rupees to Venki, and Venki have to give that back to me in next 1 month. Okay, Venki?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
You will give it back, right?
Yeah, I will share it to you, sir.
Okay. So let's say if I give 100 rupees to Venki and I'm expecting that money back in a month, and we don't have a central authority in between, so we don't have a bank in between. Maybe we are doing a transaction using a cash or maybe some currency, okay, some virtual currency. Okay. Now, in this case, when I transfer that money, after 1 month, when I'm expecting money back from Venki, at this point, if we want to have a fair deal, I want Venki you to return me exactly 100 rupees. But let's say, what if Venki says, who are you? I don't know you. Or maybe Venki will say, you have not given me 100 rupees, you have given me 50 rupees. Or maybe Venki is giving 100 rupees, but I am saying, hey, Venki, I have given you 200 rupees. Possible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now Saurabh says, check the bank statement. That's what we don't want in between. We don't want bank in between, right? We don't want a central authority to control everything. Okay, Abhay is saying you will never see Venki again. Oh, possible. Maybe you will never see Venki again. Possible. Okay. Now, in this case, Venki, what need to be done? How do I trust you? So in this case, what I can do is I can ask Venki, hey, Venki, let's take a pen and paper and let's write that Naveen has given 100 rupees to Venki. Amount is 100. And you have to also mention in your notebook, Naveen has given Venki 100 rupees. Okay. Now, after a month, when you come back, you can see the same paper. Right, Venki? We can do this?
Yeah, but I have one small doubt here, sir. Can I ask?
Yes.
What if I will remove 10 from last, sir? Then it will become 10, right? From my
Oh,
note.
see, the mind of Venki is working in malicious way now. Good, good. So Venki is trying to save money. Ah, cool. Yeah, you can do that, right, Venki? Oh,
Yes, sir.
I don't trust you anymore. This is not working. Anyone can cheat it. Maybe even I can add 10 extra here.
Yeah, no, sir. That will become 1,000.
Yeah, that's right. So Navin has given on my side. Navin has given 1,000 rupees to Venki. Now you have to give me 1,000 rupees. Maybe I will add one more zero because I want to buy iPhone 14 Max Pro. Oh, okay. I can do that. So this is not a good way, right? So what we can do is Venki cannot trust me. I can't trust Venki. So what if we can add some extra members in the group? So we can create a group of, let's say, 5. We also have Souvik here. Now, Souvik is not doing this transaction. Souvik is just maintaining the record. Souvik says, hey, you people, don't worry, I'm there. I will help you with this transaction. We also have Sanjeevan here, who is Sanju for us. And we got Sanju here. And anyone panelist who has unmuted? No? Okay, let's say we have 2. We got Sanju and we got, who else we have? Yeah, Souvik. Now this 2 says, hey, you don't worry. Every time you do a transaction, just a second. Yeah. Okay, so every time you do a transaction, we will maintain the records here. In fact, that's why we need more people. Let's say we also have Amandeep here. And let's say Aman. Okay, yeah, they can act as a witness here. So what these people will do is, every time we do a transaction, when I say, hey, Navin is sending 100 rupees to Venki, and we'll announce it. Okay, so we'll do a loud announcement. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a transaction here, which is happening from Navin to Venki, and the amount is 100 rupees. Yeah, that's the announcement I will be doing. And then these people who are in the network, they will also write the same thing, which is Navin has sent 100 rupees to Venki. Navin has sent 100 rupees to Venki. Navin has sent 100 rupees to Venki. So they will do the entry on their side as well. Yeah. Now, after 1 month, Venki says, Venki has done any malicious work, I'm not sure. But when Venki comes back, I can actually verify the transaction. What has happened here. So the transaction is not just maintained on 2 people's machine, but everyone else. Making sense? Now, what if Venki is trying to be malicious here? If Venki says, hey, I have not sent 100 rupees, so you have not received 100, I have received only 10. Now we can verify that. Other members are saying 100, so it is 100. And majority always wins. Yeah. So this is how you maintain the transaction. Now, every person here in the network. So basically what we have created here, this is our small network. Okay, so this is a network where we have all the members here, and not just 5, we can have 10 members, 1,000 members, 1 million members in this network. The only thing is, every time you do a transaction, all the members will add the data into their database. Everyone there with me? Yeah, I know your questions. So, hey, just control your questions as of now. Just try to go with the flow. I know you are excited to type the chat and stuff. Control. Sun to lo pehle. Try to understand what I'm saying. Oh, okay. So let me repeat what I'm saying. So we got a network and we got 5 people here, and then they have done the entry. Okay. Now this is a network where each of one of us, they have a name, and their name is, we call them as nodes. So everyone here is a node in the network. Now this node is actually a computer. Of course, behind every computer there's a person, but as of now, imagine Navin is a node and this is a node. Everyone here is actually a node. In fact, what I will do, I will just highlight the names itself. so that you will know their nodes. So this, good job, Naveen. Something wrong with the pencil. Yeah, this is the node, this is a node, this is a node, and this is a node. Okay, and what they have here, this is the database, or the whatever data notepad they want to use, that's their choice. Okay, cool. Now, when you have this data here, so these are the nodes we have in the network, and every time we do a transaction, not just V2, what if Aman is doing a transaction? No, we forgot Aman here. Sorry, Aman. Yeah. So what if Aman is doing a transaction with Sanju? So let's say, Aman, you are transferring some money to, let's say, 500 rupees to Sanju. So what everyone has to do now in the network? They all have to make an entry. So Amandeep will say, Aman has sent to Sanju 500 rupees. And the same entry will be done at all the places. Yeah, Aman is rich. Aman is sending 500. True. So that's the idea, right? So this is how you send money, and this is how you make the entry. I mean, not just for money. When you transfer the assets as well, it will be done in the same way. If you transfer the house and something. Okay. Now there's one issue. The issue is how all this data will be in sync. Because we have to make sure that on every node, we need to have this entry. How this data will be synced. So when there's a communication between Aman and Sanju, how everyone else will get to know that we have to make an entry. Next, there's a question from Gautam, which is actually a question, which is, what if someone is doing the entry later? What if Gautam enters and say, hey, I'm the new node now. So this is Gautam, a new node. Now Gautam, he has its own database, and there's no entry here. So we have to solve these two issues. How this communication will happen and how the entry will happen. And that's where blockchain says, don't worry, I'm there. So blockchain has some protocols and algorithms using which the moment there's a transaction, everyone will get the copy, and also you will get the copy. Okay. So even that problem is solved. So every time you've got a new node in the network, they will get the copy as well. How that works is a different thing. We'll talk about the algorithm later. Okay. How is a different question. But my point is, it happens. Okay. Now you might be having questions. You know, we are replicating data, we are wasting resources. See, there was a point when how many of you know the story of SQL to NoSQL? Come on. How many of you know the concept of SQL to NoSQL? Or how many of you don't know what SQL means? Okay, don't know NoSQL. What about SQL? How many of you know SQL? Okay, great. But at least SQL, everyone knows that. Most of you know. Okay. So what happens in SQL, you know, in SQL, you store data in a tabular format. So you have rows and columns, right? You have data like this. Now what happens, you know, in database, we have a concept of normalization, which is, and for people who are not able to understand this, chill. It's not related to blockchain. I'm just trying to make you understand why memory is not an issue anymore. So in SQL got famous somewhere in 1970s when everyone started moving from their database to SQL and stuff, or maybe later, it doesn't matter. It's before year 2000. SQL was very famous. SQL is famous now as well. But at that point, the cost of storage was very high. Even 1 MB, you know, if you can remember your childhood, we used to have a pen drive of 64 MB, 512 MB. Anyone used 512 MB pen drive? In fact, there was a point when Bill Gates quoted that 64 KB of RAM will be enough for any OS. Let me repeat. Bill Gates once mentioned in the interview that 64 KB of RAM is enough for any OS. And now Windows 11 needs at least 4 GB of RAM. Whew. Not everyone what they say is correct. Yeah. So the idea was, at that point in the previous time when people wanted to store data, they were looking for ways where you can save data in one way where you can reduce the data size. So in total, the data size should be small because we were not having the luxury of GBs at that point. So everything has to be stored in KBs and at one place try to reduce the way. And that's why the normalization concept was there, where we can create multiple tables and they are related so that we can save, we can have less memory, it will consume less memory. In NoSQL, they use a term called dump. Is it? Anyone NoSQL developer here? Do we say dump when you store data? I can always say that. Okay. What happens is in NoSQL, you have a database and we don't have a structure for it. You just take the data from the user and store it. That's it. No filtering of data, no creation of tables and stuff, just save the data and it gets replicated as well. You create this, you replicate data at multiple locations. Now, why NoSQL got famous now where you don't have a structured data is because now memory is not a concern. I mean, think about this now. We have huge amount of data and we have huge amount of storage. No one talks about data, the storage is full and stuff. I mean, think about mobile phone. There was a time when mobile phone used to have 8 GB of hard drive. I mean, the storage. And now we have what? 1 terabyte of storage in the mobile phone? Yeah. So memory is not a concern anymore. So even if you replicate the same data at multiple places, it's not an issue. And plus we are talking about text. Even if you're replicating text, not an issue. Yeah, it will be an issue when you store a 4K movie in multiple places. Yeah. So replication is not an issue nowadays, because we have huge amount of memory available for use. Okay, so that's one thing. So they have to be in sync and stuff. We can do this, but we have some other issues with this. Okay, what are the other issues? Okay, we did the transaction. The entries are happening. We have nodes. Okay, now what if everyone? So someone was also asking, what if this entry, when we did this transaction, and we mentioned that everyone else will be having the same data. What if Venki has given 5 rupees to everyone to lie?
That is my question also, sir, previously.
Yeah. Right. So how do we solve that issue? So in that case, there's no solution. If Venki is able to bribe everyone, and if maybe not be everyone, let's say Venki was able to bribe Sanju and Aman, that's it. Even Venki, in fact, these 3, in fact, we need minimum 4, right? So Gautam just entered in the chat. Let's remove Gautam. Hey, Gautam, you're creating issue in the example. Okay, let's remove Gautam. So let's say we got these 3, and these 3 were able to have a data which says I have sent only 10 rupees. In that case, it becomes an issue for blockchain, which is called a 51% attack. What it means is even 51% of the network says that the data which they have is correct, then that data is correct. So if majority is saying the lie, then the lie becomes a truth. Okay, what is 51? 51% is, so this is the name of the attack. 51% attack, which means if the 51% of the network is malicious, then you don't have a scope. Now, so I have a solution for this. One of the solution is, what if you don't just have 5 machines in the network? What if you have 1 million machines? So again, it's not a foolproof solution, but it's very difficult to convince 500,000 to lie. That's right. If you have 500,000 people to bribe, then the cost of bribery is more than what you will get in a reward. So it's not like, do you have buying power? Do you have a power to hold the network? The thing is, you will try to see. Let's give an example. Let's say you are trying to steal something. If you want to try to, if someone is trying to rob a bank, and they know the cost of robbing the bank is $1 million, and what the bank have with them is only $50 million, so maybe $500,000. So your cost of robbing the bank is more than the money available there. Yeah, and that's why nobody will attack. So no use of robbing when you don't have that much of money which you're investing or which you're spending. Okay, now one of the questions you might be having in your mind is, I've just mentioned that this will be only text files, but what if you want to store huge amount of data, maybe a video, maybe a file which is of 100 GB? Do you want to create a replica of it? And for that, I have one answer. And maybe you will understand that later, which is, you don't have to store everything on blockchain. Let me repeat. You don't have to store everything on blockchain. Making sense? Now, what if you're not storing everything on blockchain? Then what's the use of using blockchain? We'll talk about that later. As of now, just remember, not everything is stored on blockchain. Okay. Now question arises, what do you store in a blockchain? I mean, of course, we have mentioned that we store the transactions, but how exactly they are stored? So what happens, all these transactions are stored in a block. So let me repeat, all the transactions, not just one, multiple transactions are stored in one block. Okay, and every block will have something called a hash value. Now, what exactly hash is? Let me show you an amazing website. Now, the concept of this website, I wanted to build this website from a long time, and someone has done it. And that's why it is important to implement when you have an idea. So I wanted to show this with a demo. I was lazy to build a website, and we got this amazing website from Anders Brownworth, and I loved it. So basically, let's try to understand what is hash means. Now you can imagine hash means a fingerprint. Okay, so you have a finger, you have a fingerprint, and every human in this world has a fingerprint. Okay, how can I be so sure that everyone has a fingerprint? Maybe it doesn't matter. Come back. Okay, yeah, we saw this website, right? But yeah, for everyone else, let's go with the flow. It doesn't matter what happened before, but for everyone else, let's be on the same page. Now, what does hash means? Hash means a fingerprint. For every data, we have to generate an hash. And the beautiful thing is, if I talk about any data, let me just copy some data here. Just a second, I'm just copying some data here. Okay, so you can see we have this amount of data which is mentioned here. Okay, what's wrong with this? Okay, so you can see we have huge amount of data here, which is your data, and this is a hash. Now imagine hash as a fingerprint. Now this is done with the help of cryptography, some algorithm. Based on the data, this will change. Now, why you need something like this? See, sometimes you have huge amount of data, and if you want to verify that, you can verify not by comparing each letter. Example, let's say if I send you this in a chat, just a second, I'm just sending this to everyone in a chat. And you tell me what you say in the chat and what you say in the screenshot is same or not, and you have 5 seconds to do that. And your time is up. Okay, you're thinking it is same? No, it is not same. If you can see, I have made a small change with this T here. Oh, even I lost the point where I've changed it. This T. Can you see this word in the chat? In the chat, I have changed it to Y, S-I-N-Y, right? So how do we compare two values if they are same? So if I copy this, and if I open the same website, okay, and paste, okay, not this, I wanted to paste everything. So I'm pasting what I've done, the changes in this. If you can compare these two data, see the data is different, but only one letter was changed, right? Here we have sent, and here and here we have SI and Y. Look at the hash. It's very different. So what is hash basically? So every time you make a small change in your text, you will get a very different hash value. And the beauty thing is, even if that data is only a simple letter, A, look at the hash. This is the hash for A. So irrespective of your input, is it big or small, you will get a fixed length output. So in this case, it is 256 bits. So you can see we have different algorithm here. 256, then we have 64-bit. As of now, let's not talk about the algorithm, how it works. We'll talk about that later. Remember this thing, there's a concept of hash, which takes the input and it gives you the output. And if you make even a small change, even if you remove this dot from here, so if you can see, I'm just removing this dot and change, look at the change. The entire hash value has been changed with one dot. Yeah, and the beauty is for a particular algorithm, if you use this data, you will always get the same hash. Let me repeat, with a particular algorithm, if you use this data, it will always give you same hash irrespective where you're doing it. Yeah, but one more thing, you will get the hash from the data, but you can never get the data from hash. Let me repeat. You will get the hash from the data, but you can never get the data from hash. It's always one way. Yeah, vice versa is not possible. Now let's try to understand how we use this in blockchain. Now in blockchain, what we do is we create blocks. Now what this block will have, it will have the transactions. Example, Yeah, reverse is not possible. I was saying reverse. It's also case sensitive. That's right. If I go back, let me show you it's case sensitive. If I change this small e to capital E, you can see it's changed drastically. Okay. Okay, let me just go back to hash. So what is, block. So what is block? So in the blockchain, whenever you store data, irrespective, is it money transaction, is it whatever type of transaction you have, everything will be done in a block. Now, block will have the transaction data. Maybe you can say Naveen has transferred to Amandeep some amount, let's say 1,000 rupees. Right, so whatever data you want to mention, you can mention that here. As of now, we are not concerned about data. It will be the list of transactions. How it is stored, that's a different issue. But it will have the list of transaction. It will also have a nouns, which we'll discuss later. As of now, let's not talk about nouns. And we have a block here. So you can see we have block number. So block number 1, block number 2. And then, so you can store your data here. So I can say Naveen. And you can see every time I do the changes, it will change the hash code as well. And then what you do is you click on mine. Again, what is mine? We'll talk about that later. And if I click on this, you can see we got the first block in the blockchain. That's it. You got this block. But then just to have the data in a blockchain, why this hash is useful? See, data makes sense, right? Block number makes sense. In a blockchain, if you have a block number, makes sense. In a blockchain, if you have the data, makes sense. Why hash is there? To understand this, let's create more blocks. Now, when is a situation you will create more blocks? Now, think about this. Let's talk about the Bitcoin blockchain for some time. Now, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a currency, right? You send money, you receive money. Now, every time you send money, you create a transaction. So this is the list of transactions. So this is a transaction someone did. This is a transaction someone did. So we have multiple transactions. Now, all this transaction goes into a block. Okay. And then the next set of transaction, let's say after a few minutes of some time, we got new transaction in a block. So we create a new block. So every time you got one block completed, you will create a new block. Making sense? So basically you store your data in a block format. So list of transactions in different blocks. Now, specifically in Bitcoin, on average, you create a new block in 10 minutes. So this block got created for the 10 minutes of transaction. For the next 10 minutes, you will be having a new block and you will be having new transaction. So while we are speaking in this 2 hours, we already got 12 blocks in the blockchain. Yeah. So in every 10 minutes, you get a new block in a blockchain. Okay. So if you know that you are creating a new block, so let's go to blockchain here. So you can see we have multiple blocks here. Now, this is our first block, which was created in the first 10 minutes. And in this, I'm adding some data. I'm saying Naveen here. And of course, it will have a list of transactions. Now, with this list of transactions, you can see this is the hash which you have created. Yeah. The moment I click on mine, now this block is there in the network. Okay. Now, once we got this block ready, if you can see, we got a new block. And of course, right after every 10 minutes, you have to get a new block. Now, this new block, the data is empty as of now. Let's add some data. And I will say this data is blockchain course. And here you can see we have the hash. This is the hash for the current block. But why we have a previous hash? Now, if we try to match, the previous hash matches with the hash of the previous block. Right? Okay, as of now, even I'm not sure why it is there. So let's say we have a hash, click on mine. Now we got a second block in the blockchain. Now we got a third block. In third block, let's say let me add some random data. And if you can see, it also has a previous block, which is matching with the previous block here. Click on mine. and let's say something here. And let's say at this point, sorry, I will just mine this once again. I will say Naveen has sent Venki 100 rupees. Mine. Okay. And here I've added some data. Mine. Added some data. Mine. Can I get one more block, please? No? Okay. So now what is happening is every block here is linked. So this block, second block, is dependent on the first block. You can see the hash value of the first block. The next block is dependent on this previous block. The next block is dependent on the previous block. Yes, this looks like a linked list, right? Where we have a link between all these nodes. Yeah. Even this one has a previous block. Now, what's the advantage? The advantage is, remember, I mentioned that blockchain, using blockchain, we can build a trust. Now, what happens, why we got this trust? See, when you trust something because of data, let me repeat, you trust something because of data. Now, think about this. If I say, I am the world best cricketer, will you trust me? No? Oh, nobody's trusting me here. That's weird. Okay, that's right. So someone is saying, Pratik is saying, show us records. That's right. What if I can show you the record? What if I can just show you the record on ICC website that I have the highest score in the world. I have the best batting average compared to every batsman in the world. I have most of the centuries. What if I can do that on the ICC official website? Will you trust me? Then you have to trust me, because we always believe the data. Okay, so in this case, we are trusting blockchain, and by saying Naveen has sent Venki 100 rupees. Now let's say after some time, I'm being malicious here, and I'm coming here to change the value. I want to change this value to 1,000. Now what will happen? I'm changing it. The moment I do that, can you see that? The moment I entered 0, all the other blocks became red. You know why? Because the moment you make one change in your data, it will change the hash of the current block. And remember, the next block is actually dependent on the previous block. And that's how you build trust. The moment someone is trying to change the data in one particular block, even a slight change will result in change of the hash, which will affect the entire remaining blockchain or remaining blocks in the chain. And not just you, no one person has this blockchain. You know who has all this blockchain? Who has all this data? All these people in the network. Naveen, Venki, Souvik, Aman, Sanju, everyone in the network has this blockchain. And if Naveen is trying to change it, Venki, Souvik, Aman, Sanju, they all will say, Naveen is a corrupt person here. Let's remove Naveen from the network. And this is what makes blockchain immutable. And when I mentioned that my name is mentioned on the ICC website as the best cricketer, a lot of you were saying it is hacked or I have changed it. You don't trust ICC website also is because it is corruptible, it is mutable. And we don't trust something which is mutable. But what if the same data is available on blockchain? Then you will trust, because you know that no one can change it. Is it making sense now? Yes, if someone is trying to change data in a blockchain, you can track it. Because the moment you are changing data, you're not changing data on the other's machine, you're changing data on your own blockchain copy. And the software of blockchain knows the moment you find a node where you have changed it, it will try to verify that block with the all other blocks on the network. And everyone will say, this is a culprit node or malicious node. Okay, now the question arises, what if you change the data in the last block? What if you change? Only that block will be affected. And no other, since we don't have further blocks here, what happens is you can trust the block only when it has more than 6 blocks before it. I mean, after it, sorry. You can trust the block only when that block has 6 more blocks ahead. Is it making sense, everyone? Okay, and the example will make much more sense once we start talking about Bitcoin and all the stuff, how it works. Today we have only talked about the basics of blockchain and some part. Sal, don't worry, we'll talk about the same part in the Bitcoin. It will make much more sense there. Okay. Yeah, so that's about the introduction of blockchain. I know it was a lot of concepts in one go. But as I mentioned, right, we have only seen the upper layer. We have not seen we have seen the single layer. We still have to see more layers. Okay, so we'll see that in the next session tomorrow. So tomorrow again, 3 to 5, same timing, we'll have the session. So we'll clear up more of the things. So that's it from blockchain today. And now we can take a break. So we can take a 15 minutes break, which is 5 to 5. 20. So starting now, we have a break for 15 minutes and then we'll continue with the JavaScript part. So Sanjeevan, I'm making you the host.
Yeah, sure, sir. I will set the timer and we'll get back after 15 minutes.
And Yogesh, yes, your doubt is not still clear. Let's wait for the tomorrow session.